I need to get this out before it destroys what's left of me. My name is Jake, I'm 28, and 3 weeks ago my entire life imploded because of 6 words my cousin Sarah let slip at my engagement party. Well, he's not really family anyway. She said it like it was common knowledge. Like everyone knew. Like I was the only idiot in the room who didn't understand why people had been treating me differently for months. The room went dead silent. 43 people staring at me while my world cracked in half. My fiancée Emma's hand found mine, squeezing tight, but I could feel her confusion radiating through her grip. My mom's face went white. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. And Aunt Linda? She just stood there with that satisfied smirk she gets when she thinks she's won something. Sarah, that's enough, my mom finally whispered, but it was too late. The bomb was already detonating. I should probably back up. Explain how we got here. It started 6 months ago at my cousin Mike's wedding. I was standing with the groomsmen, joking around, when I overheard 2 relatives I barely knew talking near the bar. Poor kid probably doesn't even know, one said. Linda's been dropping hints for years. Someone should just tell him. Not our place. But it explains why he never quite fit in. I assumed they were talking about someone else. Some family drama I wasn't privy to. We're a big family, lots of gossip, lots of secrets. I didn't think much of it. But then weird things started happening. My grandmother, who used to light up when she saw me, started giving me these sad, pitying looks. Family gatherings felt different. Conversations would stop when I walked into rooms. People would ask me questions about my situation, and when I'd look confused, they'd just nod knowingly and change the subject. The worst part? My own parents started acting strange around me. Mom would get this guilty expression whenever I mentioned family stuff. Dad would get defensive about random things, like when I joked about inheriting his terrible eyesight or his love of terrible dad jokes. "You're nothing like me," he said once, and it wasn't meant as an insult, but something in his voice made my stomach drop. I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I look nothing like my parents. Nothing. They're both short, stocky, with brown hair and brown eyes. I'm 6'2", lean, with blonde hair and green eyes. As a kid, strangers would ask if I was adopted, and my parents would always laugh it off. "He gets it from my grandfather," Mom would say, but I'd never seen pictures of this mysterious doll, blonde grandfather. I started noticing how Aunt Linda would watch me at family functions. She's my mom's sister, and they've never gotten along. There was always this underlying tension, this competition between them that I never understood. But lately, Linda's looks weren't just competitive. They were triumphant. Like she was winning a game I didn't know we were playing. 3 weeks ago, Emma and I decided to have our engagement party. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends in my parents' backyard. I was happy. Genuinely happy. We'd been together for years, and she was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Smart, funny, kind. She loved my weird family, even Aunt Linda's passive-aggressive comments and Uncle Bob's inappropriate jokes. The party was going great until Sarah, Linda's daughter, had too much wine. We were all standing around the fire pit, telling embarrassing stories about me and Emma, when someone brought up how I used to be such a serious kid, always trying to prove myself, always working harder than everyone else. He was always trying so hard to belong. Sarah laughed, swirling her wine. Makes sense now that we know the truth. What truth? Emma asked innocently. That's when Sarah dropped the bomb. Well, he's not really family anyway. The silence that followed was deafening. I felt like I was watching it happen to someone else. Like I was floating above my body, watching this man named Jake learn that his entire life was a lie in front of 43 people who apparently all knew except him. Sarah, my mom gasped. What? Everyone knows, Sarah said, looking around the circle. Aunt Linda's been telling people for months. About how Jake's adopted and how Uncle Paul and Aunt Carol never told him, and how it's not fair to the family to keep pretending. I looked at Aunt Linda. Really looked at her. And she didn't deny it. She just stood there with her arms crossed, that smug expression on her face like she'd finally won whatever war she'd been fighting with my mother. Is it true? I heard myself ask. My parents exchanged a look. The kind of look that said everything without saying anything. Jake, sweetheart, my mom started, but I was already backing away. Is it true? The longest pause of my life. Yes, my dad whispered. And just like that, 28 years of my life became a lie. I don't remember much about the rest of that night. Emma tried to hold me together, but I was already falling apart. Guests started leaving awkwardly. My parents kept trying to explain, but I couldn't hear them over the ringing in my ears. The only thing I remember clearly is Aunt Linda's face as she gathered her purse to leave. She looked satisfied. Finally satisfied. "You should have told him years ago, Carol," she said to my mom. "Secrets have a way of coming out." That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't spoken to my parents since. Haven't been home. I've been staying at Emma's place, but I can feel her patience wearing thin. How do you comfort someone whose entire identity just got ripped away? The worst part isn't even that I'm adopted. It's that everyone knew except me. My cousins, my aunts and uncles, probably half the neighborhood. They all walked around with this secret, watching me stumble through life thinking I belonged somewhere I didn't. And Aunt Linda made sure everyone knew I was living a lie. I keep thinking about every family gathering, every holiday, every time someone said I didn't look like my parents or act like my parents or have the same interests as my parents. They weren't innocent observations. They were reminders that I was different, that I was other, that I wasn't really theirs. It's been 2 months since my world imploded. 2 months since I learned that my entire family had been living with a secret that defined my existence while I stumbled around blind. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. After my last post, a lot of you reached out with advice. "Talk to your parents," he said. "Get the full story. Don't let your aunt win." I wanted to follow that advice. I really did. But then I started digging. It began with Emma. She meant well, she always does. But she couldn't understand why I wasn't just grateful to have loving parents regardless of biology. "They raised you," she kept saying. "They chose you. Isn't that beautiful?" "No, Emma. It's not beautiful when everyone else gets to know the truth except you." She convinced me to meet with my parents 2 weeks after the party. "Neutral ground," she suggested. "The coffee shop where I used to study in college." Mom cried the entire time. Dad kept apologizing. They told me the story I should have heard 28 years ago. I was 3 when they adopted me. My birth mother was my mom's friend from high school who got pregnant at 17. She wanted me to have a better life with a stable family. It was supposed to be temporary, just until she got back on her feet, but temporary became permanent when she died in a car accident 6 months later. "We were going to tell you," Mom sobbed, "when you were older, when you could understand. But you seemed so happy, so settled. We didn't want to disrupt that." And then years passed, Dad added quietly. And it felt too late. Like we'd already lied too much to come clean. They painted it like some noble sacrifice. Like they were protecting me from pain. But all I could think about was Aunt Linda's smirk and how she'd been weaponizing my own story against me for months. "How long has Linda known?" I asked. They exchanged another one of those looks. "She was there when it happened," Mom admitted. "She helped with the paperwork." My blood went cold. "She's known for 25 years? Jake, you have to understand, back then it wasn't uncommon to just not discuss these things." But Linda had been discussing it. For months. With everyone except me. That's when I realized this wasn't just about my adoption. This was about Linda finally having ammunition to destroy my mother. I started asking around. Carefully. Quietly. Turns out, Aunt Linda hadn't just been dropping hints like Sarah said at the party. She'd been running a full campaign. She told my cousin Beth that I was troubled because I didn't know my real identity. She told my uncle's wife that my parents were living a lie and that I deserved to know the truth. She told the neighbors that I was adopted and that my parents were selfish for not telling me. But here's the kicker, she never told me directly. Never gave me the chance to process it privately, to have a conversation with my parents on my own terms. Instead, she made sure everyone else knew first, so that when the truth finally came out, it would be as humiliating and devastating as possible. She turned my adoption into a weapon against my mother and made me collateral damage. The more I learned, the angrier I got. This wasn't about me deserving to know the truth. This was about Linda getting revenge for some decades-old sibling rivalry I didn't even understand. But the damage was done. Everyone looked at me differently now. At family gatherings, conversations felt forced. People didn't know what to say. Some treated me like I was fragile, others like I was a stranger they were meeting for the first time. My cousin Mike's wife actually asked me if I was going to find my real family now. Like the people who raised me for 28 years were just placeholders. The worst was my grandmother's funeral last month. Grandma Rose, who helped raise me, who taught me to make her famous chocolate chip cookies, who used to sneak me extra allowance when my parents weren't looking. At the service, I overheard Aunt Linda talking to some relatives I barely knew. "It's so sad," she was saying. "Rose always treated Jake like her real grandson. But I wonder if she ever felt conflicted about it." knowing he wasn't actually Carol's blood. I wanted to scream. Grandma has never treated me differently. She loved me unconditionally. But now Linda was planting seeds of doubt about even those memories. The funeral reception was torture. People kept giving me those pitying looks. Some avoided me entirely. Others made awkward comments about how Grandma Rose loved all her grandchildren equally, with emphasis on the word all. I realized that Linda hadn't just told people I was adopted. She'd been editorializing, adding her own spin, making people question every relationship I'd ever had with my family. Emma tried to be supportive, but I could see the strain it was putting on our relationship. Every time I tried to explain how violated I felt, how betrayed, she'd get this look like she thought I was overreacting. "Maybe it's time to let this go," she said after a particularly bad night where I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything except the fact that my entire extended family had been gossiping about my life for months. "Let it go?" I stared at her. "Emma, everyone I've ever known has been lying to me. My own aunt has been systematically destroying my relationships with my family, and you want me to let it go?" "I want you to stop letting her win," she said quietly. But Linda had already won. She'd done exactly what she set out to do. She'd isolated me from my family, destroyed my trust in the people who raised me, and turned my own adoption story into a source of shame instead of love. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago at my cousin Tom's birthday party. I almost didn't go, but Emma convinced me that hiding would just give Linda more power. I was wrong to listen to her. Linda cornered me by the dessert table. Just the two of us. Her first direct conversation with me since the engagement party. "I hope you understand I did this for your own good," she said, cutting herself a piece of cake like we were discussing the weather. "You destroyed my life for my own good? I gave you the truth. Your parents should have done that years ago, but they were always selfish. Carol especially. She couldn't stand the idea of not being seen as the perfect mother. So you decided to humiliate me in front of 40 people?" She shrugged. "Sometimes the truth hurts. But you deserve to know who you really are. And who am I, Linda?" She looked me dead in the eyes. "You're not one of us. You never were. And pretending otherwise was just cruel to everyone involved." That's when I understood. This was never about me deserving the truth. This was about Linda believing I didn't deserve to belong. I left the party without saying goodbye to anyone. Emma followed me to the parking lot, trying to calm me down. But I was done. Done pretending this was fixable. Done pretending my family could ever feel normal again. "She's just one person," Emma said desperately. "Don't let her ruin everything else." But she wasn't just one person. She was the person who controlled the narrative. And now everyone in my family had her version of my story in their heads. I haven't spoken to most of my family since that party. My parents keep calling, but what's the point? They had 28 years to tell me the truth, and they chose secrecy. They chose to let me find out in the most humiliating way possible. Emma's been staying at her sister's place this week. She says she needs space to think about our relationship. I think she's finally realizing that the man she fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. How could he? That man thought he belonged somewhere. That man had a family who loved him unconditionally. That man didn't know he was living a lie. It's been 6 months since Aunt Linda detonated my life at my engagement party. 6 months since I learned that everyone I trusted had been keeping the biggest secret of my existence from me while Linda turned it into family gossip. I'm writing this from my new apartment across town. Emma and I broke up 3 weeks ago. My parents and I haven't spoken in 2 months. Most of my family has stopped trying to reach out entirely. Linda got exactly what she wanted. But this isn't a story about Linda anymore. It's about what happens when the foundation of your entire identity gets ripped away in the most public, humiliating way possible. It's about learning that belonging isn't guaranteed, even in the family that raised you. After my last update, some of you suggested I try family therapy. Others said I should confront Linda directly. A few told me to cut contact with everyone and start fresh. I tried all of it. The family therapy lasted exactly 2 sessions. My parents showed up to the first one with a folder full of baby pictures and adoption papers, like visual proof of their love would somehow undo 28 years of lies. They talked about how scared they were to tell me, how they wanted to protect me, how they never imagined it would come out like this. "We were waiting for the right time," Mom kept saying through tears. The therapist, Dr. Martinez, asked a simple question that stopped everyone cold. When would have been the right time? Silence. Because there was no right time in their minds. They were comfortable with me never knowing. They were fine letting me live my entire life not understanding why I looked nothing like them, why I felt different, why other family members gave me weird looks. The second session was worse. Dr. Martinez suggested we explore how the secret keeping had affected family dynamics over the years. That's when I realized Linda wasn't the only one who'd been treating me differently. My parents had been overcompensating for years, always pushing harder to include me in family traditions I didn't naturally fit into, always insisting I was just like them when clearly I wasn't. They'd been performing parenthood instead of just being my parents. And I'd been performing too, working twice as hard to belong somewhere I apparently didn't fit naturally, never understanding why it felt so difficult. The therapist appointments ended when my mom had a breakdown in session 3. "He hates us now," she sobbed. "Linda destroyed everything, and now he hates us." But I didn't hate them. That was the problem. I was angry and hurt and betrayed, but I still loved them. They were still my parents, even if the way I became their son was built on a foundation of lies and secrets. The hate I saved for Linda. I confronted her 2 months ago at my cousin's graduation party. I'd been avoiding family events, but Emma convinced me to go before our relationship completely fell apart. "Don't let her win," she kept saying, not understanding that Linda had already won the moment she opened her mouth at my engagement party. I found Linda in the kitchen, arranging a fruit tray like she hadn't systematically destroyed my life. "We need to talk," I said. She looked up with that same satisfied expression she'd worn since this all started. "Of course, honey. I was wondering when you'd finally want to have an adult conversation about this." Adult conversation? I could barely keep my voice level. "You spent months telling my entire family that I was adopted while making sure I was the last to know. You turned my life into gossip. I gave you information your parents should have provided decades ago. You humiliated me in front of everyone I cared about." She set down the fruit she was cutting and really looked at me. "Jake, I understand you're upset, but someone needed to tell you the truth. Your parents were being selfish, keeping you in the dark like that. So you decided to tell everyone except me?" I was building up to it, trying to create a situation where the truth could come out naturally. The audacity was breathtaking. "Naturally? You made sure everyone at my engagement party knew I was adopted before I did. How is that natural? Sometimes people need a push to do the right thing." That's when I understood the full scope of what she'd done. This wasn't about me deserving the truth. This wasn't about my parents being wrong to keep secrets. This was about Linda finding the perfect weapon to hurt my mother and destroy our family's stability. "This was never about me," I said quietly. "This was about you hating my mom." For the first time, her expression shifted. A crack in the satisfaction. "Your mother has always thought she was better than everyone else. Perfect marriage, perfect house, perfect son. Except he wasn't her son, was he? He was just some troubled teenager's mistake that she got to play mother to." The words hit me like physical blows. "Is that how you see me? As a mistake? I see you as a reminder that your mother's perfect life was built on a lie. And lies always come out eventually." I stared at this woman who'd been at every birthday party, every holiday, every family gathering of my entire life, who'd watched me grow up while seeing me as nothing more than evidence of my mother's imperfection. "You destroyed my family to hurt my mom. I told the truth to hurt your mom. There's a difference. And what about me? What about Emma? What about everyone else who got caught in the crossfire of your petty revenge?" She shrugged. Actually shrugged. "Sometimes innocent people get hurt. That's life." I left without another word. What was the point? She'd accomplished exactly what she set out to do, and she felt no remorse about the collateral damage. The graduation party was the last family event I attended. Watching everyone try to act normal around me while knowing they'd all been part of Linda's whisper campaign was unbearable. Some tried too hard to include me in conversations. Others avoided me entirely. A few made awkward comments about how family isn't about blood, it's about love, as if they were trying to convince themselves as much as me. But the damage was permanent. Every interaction felt performative now. Every family gathering would be tainted by the knowledge that they'd all known something I didn't. That they'd all watched me stumble through life thinking I belonged somewhere I apparently didn't fit. Emma tried to hold on. She really did. But watching someone you love fall apart slowly, watching them question every relationship and memory and assumption about their life, it takes a toll. "I don't know how to help you anymore," she said when she came to collect her things from our apartment. "I've tried everything, and you just keep pulling away. Everyone I trusted lied to me, Emma. How am I supposed to trust anyone again?" By choosing to. By deciding that not everyone is Linda. By recognizing that your parents made a mistake but they love you. They had 28 years to tell me the truth. And Linda had 25 years to tell you directly but chose to humiliate you instead. Why are you giving her more power than the people who actually raised you? She was right, logically. But logic doesn't heal the kind of wound Linda inflicted. Logic doesn't undo the humiliation of learning your entire identity is a lie in front of 43 people. Logic doesn't rebuild trust that was shattered so completely. And we left on a Tuesday. My parents stopped calling a month later. Most of my extended family has given up trying to include me in plans. I've become the family ghost story, the cautionary tale about what happens when secrets come out wrong. I'm seeing a new therapist now, Dr. Chen. She doesn't try to fix my relationship with my family. Instead, she's helping me figure out who I am when I'm not trying to belong somewhere that apparently required lies to make space for me. It's slow work. Some days are better than others. I've started researching my birth mother, Maria Santos. She was 17 when I was born, 18 when she died. No family to speak of, which is probably why the adoption went so smoothly. I found her grave last month. Brought flowers. Told her I was sorry no one ever told me her name. I think about alternate timelines sometimes. What if my parents had told me when I was young? What if Linda had minded her own business? What if I'd found out privately, with dignity, with time to process? But those timelines don't exist. In this one, I learned I was adopted when my drunk cousin announced it at my engagement party because my aunt spent months weaponizing my identity against my mother. In this timeline, belonging costs too much. I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with my family again. The foundation is too cracked, the trust too broken. Maybe some wounds don't heal, they just teach you how to live with permanent damage. What I do know is this: secrets are just delayed explosions waiting for the right person to light the fuse. And when they detonate, they don't just destroy the people keeping them.